For all of my straight and bi men listening and my gay and bi women listening, everybody who has sex with women and wants to do better, I've got a product for you. Have you heard of Kenneth Play? He is an Adonis of a man, and he has put together a video course teaching others how to please women the way only he knows how. I have personally had the pleasure of spending an intimate evening with Kenneth. I don't think I've ever had a first-time sexual encounter with somebody that was just 100% pleasurable. There was never a moment of pain. There was never a moment of meh. He knew my body better than I knew my body. He found pleasure spots in me that I did not know I had, and he made me come many times. I have gifted his web course, Beyond Satisfied Pro, to lovers of mine, and in every case, they have become better lovers as a result. And now I would like to gift this to you with a 15% discount. Go to kennethplay.com/closeted. That link gets you 15% off Kenneth's Beyond Satisfied Pro course. This is just for my listeners. Trust me. No one regrets being great in bed, and this course will get you there. kennethplay.com/closeted.
We all got secrets. We all got secrets. We all got crazy glass and days so oven kept in hiding, separate bleaching monitor oven kept. We all got secrets.
Hello, pinecones, and welcome back to the ClosetEd Between Seasons interview series. If you're a new listener coming to this show for the first time, you can totally start listening here if you want to, but just know that this is not the show. The show is an audio-only, NPR-style narrative documentary storytelling kind of shebangle where each episode features a different anonymous guest who, if you knew them in real life, they look totally normal, very conventional, very vanilla, but behind closed doors in their private lives, they are anything but, in all sorts of exciting, juicy, scandalous ways. The whole idea is that the closet in a sex-negative society is a lot bigger than we think. That all being said, while I work on season 2, in order to not fade from your lives, I am here bringing you between seasons content. There are interviews and also monologues where I share stories from my own life. Today, I'm bringing you an interview with a fascinating man. His name is Adam Darrow, and he has written a new book called Seek the Risk. It's a memoir about his adventures in non-monogamy. Really his adventures in non-monogamy with one particular woman who he calls Jane in the book, a woman that he had a 10-year-long relationship with and married, and how difficult it was for him to manage his sense of what masculinity meant and his own self-identity as a man in the face of his wife's voracious sexual appetite and crazy high novelty drive, which if you haven't heard that term before, it means that you crave a wide variety of sexual experiences with different people. I am also a very happy power slut with a high novelty drive, a lot like Jane, and I have been in so many relationships with men who were attracted to me because of that quality, and then because it made them feel insecure and feel like their masculinity was being threatened, tried to destroy that quality in me. I have descended to the darkest depths of depression because of relationships like that. So getting to hear a man who went through that and handled it differently than my ex-partners did has been tremendous for me. And it really helped me understand too, sort of what they were up against, because I don't think I had a really nuanced perspective on how hard it actually was for them. So I think you'll enjoy this interview with Adam Darrow, author of Seek the Risk. Here we go. Adam, thank you so much for being on my interview series. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. All right. I've just been reading your book for the last week, getting so much out of it. And I have to start by saying, Oh, this is impactful for me right now because what you went through in your relationship with your, I don't want to, no spoilers, but with your wife, Jane, uh, is so very much what my husband has gone through with me. Except, unlike you, he took the other path. He lashed out at me, made our relationship a hell, and it's now over. And I'm nursing a
It's too
broken heart.
bad.
So this was like reading this was a window into what was going on with him, because I really, really think it was so much of the stuff that you talk about. So I'm so excited to talk to you and like have a conversation about like how some of these things hit me. So for the listeners, and just to make it so I'm not talking as much, why don't you just give everybody sort of a summary of what your memoir is about? Like if you had to put it in your own words and like make it an elevator pitch, go ahead.
Sure. It's a period of 10 years in my life when I entered into a non-monogamous relationship with a woman I ended up marrying, who I met and fell for. And she was very clear from day one, I do not do monogamy. And I don't do it very publicly. She was a sex educator, psychologist, PhD. So I was presented with a choice of, okay, here's the woman I'm falling for. This is the kind of relationship she wants. It's terrifying for me to go into this relationship. So the first part of the book is me sort of coming to grips with that and enjoying. We're having this great sexual relationship. It's obviously that we're falling in love, and I had a background of a competitive extreme sports person. And so I have this natural sort of desire to put myself into stressful situations because I find that life is just more interesting if there's some fear and intimidation you're trying to get through. I used to think that those were obstacles, but then as I got older, I realized that adventures are more interesting because of that adventure. And then when I was presented with this adventure by Jane, and I really didn't want to do it, I kind of had like a man up talk with myself. It's like, look, if you've spent your life saying you run towards a burning building, here's the ultimate test of that philosophy. And I did really want to be with her, so I was trying to find a way to do it. So I said yes and entered into this relationship, and it was without a doubt the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. And I didn't even really come from that traditional background. I grew up in New York City, very liberal, very sex positive, but still all the socialization growing up when I grew up was, late 80s and 90s, still had a certain amount of masculinity associated with how the world saw my heterosexuality and my female partner. So I was not prepared for how hard it was and how much blowback I was going to get from family, friends, coworkers, everything. It was quite an eye-opening journey, but it was well worth every moment.
Excellent. One of my favorite things that you do in this book is the comparison, the running analogy between extreme sports and extreme relationshiping, which is kind of how you frame non-monogamy. Yeah. And like, there's plenty in me that wants to push back on that and be like, actually, this is the way most people have relationships and we just don't talk about it. But there is this one particular chapter where you're on a bike ride through the city all the way down to the ocean in Brooklyn. And you're just like fuming over. Now I'm not remembering what just happened. Can you tell that story for us?
Sure. So we had been seeing each other for a couple of years at this point, but she was finishing her PhD up at school. I was living in New York City, and we'd see each other quite, a couple times a month. And the relationship was getting somewhat serious, but it wasn't like fully committed. We weren't living together. We were glorified fuck buddies, friends with benefits, whatever you want to call it. And I knew she was super non-monogamous, but whenever we were together, it was just us. And when she was at school, she was doing whatever she wanted. And whenever we saw each other, we were having a great time together. And we didn't see each other, there was no expectation of any kind of sexual commitment or anything like that. And in my head, I had always assumed, okay, we're going to reach a point where this all will end and we'll become like a regular.
And were you aware of that assumption until that moment?
It's hard to say if it was just, it was so ingrained in me that it was sort of like it didn't even have to identify it. It was just part of who I was and part of the world I lived in. And so she's finishing her PhD. She's going to move in, and I'm up at school with her, and I'm helping her pack it up, and she makes some comment about can't wait to be down in New York City and have so many more men because she was in a small town. And I was just like, you plan on keeping this non-monogamy thing going once we're living together? And she was like, well, yeah, of course. This is who I am. Did you think I would change?
That's
And I
right.
was just like, I stammered. I was like, oh, I guess I really hadn't thought about it, and then just forgot about it until I got back to New York City. And for the next few weeks, I was just like, what is she talking about? You can't do this. And a lot of my thinking is done on the bicycle. So, yeah, I mean, and now in truth, it probably was several bike rides, but
Of
you
course.
can't really do that in writing. So I condensed it into a single bike ride. And
That's
but the scene
that's
on the beach,
forgivable.
the scene on the beach is 100% that real. I would go. That's where I would go to think was out on the beach. It was a good ride from where I was living. So yeah, that bike ride was just the mental argument and gymnastics I was going through to try and figure out if I could actually do this.
It was wild for me. It was such a roller coaster of emotions because you're like, full of rage, and then suddenly you have to go, and there's all these cars, and it's dangerous, and like you almost get hit, and you're like in the moment, and then that finishes, and you're like, wait, actually, my life isn't so bad, and then the rage comes back. It was a really great chapter.
Yeah, I mean, because I that's how my brain, like, I think all of our brains do that. We'll wildly swing back and forth between things, and I grew up bike messengering in New York City, which is like an extreme sport in itself.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
I really tried to sort of put the reader on the bike with me in the traffic, dealing with all this stuff, trying to think about Jane, trying to not get hit by a car. And
Yeah. Don't die. That was, I had a moment like that in my relationship very early on, as soon as we were living together. And I had, right before I got married, and it was for similarly practical reasons to yours. Like it was a situation where it benefited us greatly to get married, and it would make it almost impossible to be together if we weren't. So we got married really fast. And like, as soon as we were living together, I tried to have a conversation about boundaries because I was going to do a work trip. We had moved from New York, and I was going to go back, and I wanted to see a couple people. And he just shut down for 2 days and didn't talk to me because I said, hey, are there any boundaries you'd like me to observe when I see these other people that I have longstanding relationships with? And so he could just completely shut down. And, I didn't respond the way Jane did. I kind of wish I could go back in time and be like, did you think I was going to change? But reading that chapter, I'm like, maybe that would have been the wrong thing to say. But I did the opposite thing. I said, you know what, this is clearly more than you bargained for. And I want to give you a chance to work through this. So I'm going to give you temporary monogamy. But that didn't work. It didn't work. And I wanted to just shout you out. So this thing comes up throughout the book where you repeatedly have these emotional roller coasters.
yeah.
But you are not lashing out at Jane.
Yeah.
How the fuck did you do that? And can you teach the others?
Right. And it's in the book how I do it. But this is why the book really parallels my experience in the extreme sports world with the extreme relationship world. And I initially in the relationship, I don't want to give any spoilers. Initially in the relationship broke me down. I was like your husband. I couldn't handle it, but I didn't lash out. I just was falling apart. And it wasn't until I started saying, well, wait a second, you are really good at regulating yourself in these extreme environments. Let's just try using those methods of just remembering that you are safe, you're okay, and that when you allow yourself to be emotionally affected by the situation you're in, you start making decisions that can have devastating consequences, like lashing out at someone, like screaming, like blowing up at a party when something happens that you don't want. So a lot of the sports I did was free solo rock climbing. And in that situation, you absolutely have to stay focused no matter what happens. Sometimes
for people who aren't
familiar,
familiar, what is free solo rock climbing?
It's rock climbing without ropes.
You're crazy.
I don't do it anymore. I actually don't do it anymore. But when I was a younger man, I did a lot of bravado, a lot of stuff to try and prove I was a man, and that's in the book too, about questioning my motives for doing stuff like that as well. But what it did teach me, right, exactly. What it did teach me is how to control emotions when they come up, because emotion in those situations could have the consequences of killing you. Well, yeah, I'm not going to die in an extreme relationship, but I could make a mistake that would end a relationship I really liked, and I really needed to make sure that everything I did was in line with what I wanted outcomes to be. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but what sports taught me is how to control my emotions. And when I applied that to relationship, it was beautiful. It was like, okay, something has made me really angry, but I'm just gonna repeat my mantra, which is chill the fuck out. It sounds crazy, but it's chill the fuck out, and then start looking at the situation from all the other angles and seeing how beautiful my life is. You have to expand. When we get really upset, our focus generally is very narrow. We're looking at a very tiny thing without taking the bigger picture. And the trick is to expand that camera lens, to look out, to look at yourself from above, see my incredible life in New York City, and with this woman who's having an unbelievable life with, except, now there's a moment that's making it really hard. Well, expand outward. That moment becomes this tiny little pinprick in a larger tapestry or fabric that is your life. And if you can really visualize that well, it's amazing how calming it is, because you see all the good and the bad thing that's happening. Yeah, it's bad and it's real. Emotions are absolutely real, but give them context and they're not as impactful.
Yeah, I loved the way you wrote about bringing yourself back from the ledge just by comparing your fears to the reality. There's one story where you describe you're at a sex party. And
first sex party I've ever been at.
That was your first?
Yeah, that was the first sex party I'd ever been at.
And you walk into a room where Jane is having sex with 3 different men at the same time.
Yeah.
And you just keep fucking walking.
Just keep walking. Yep. Just keep walking.
Tell us about that experience a little bit.
When I got together with Jane, she was far more experienced than me in the world of non-monogamy and kink and sex parties, obviously. And after she does move in and we're now living together, we had a whole discussion about it because I was really uncomfortable. And I traveled a lot for work. So I basically said, how about this? When I'm traveling for work, anything goes. But when I'm in New York City, we're together. And if we want to play together, we can play with another couple, another single person, but we're doing it together. All the plays together when we're in the same city. When I'm traveling, you can. And I don't want to know about it. So don't ask, don't tell kind of thing.
Some guardrails.
There's some guardrails.
This was the form of non-monogamy you were already comfortable with previously.
I had a couple threesomes with another girlfriend. I mean, at once another climbing partner had me help him fuck his girlfriend. So it wasn't my girlfriend. I was
you generous man.
So I had very limited ability, even though in my head I was this, wow, look how sexual I am. And then I met Jane. She was like, oh, that's adorable.
You're so cute.
I once got bukkake and gangbanged by 12 guys. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a lot. That's more than I've done. But anyway, so she wanted to go to sex parties together because that was a way she could exercise her desire for crazy wild sex when I was in town. And I was like, oh, sex party, that sounds kind of interesting. I had been to one before. It was like one room with like 10 people and with a girlfriend. And that was it. And I had assumed that what we were going to was sort of going to be the same as that. And so she said, when we go there, we can go wander on our own, then we'll come back together, wander. And I was like, okay, sure. I didn't realize what I was going to was a massive party with 250 people in catacombs of rooms all over the place. But I had agreed to it. And I was like, all right, say yes. And we had a lovely time. It was great. And then eventually we disperse and we go about our ways. And I actually end up hooking up with a woman in between all these coats. And then I'm wandering around looking for Jane. And I walk into this room and, there's so many rooms everywhere wandering around. I walk in and there's a woman on a bed with 3 guys and they're all going at it. And then I realize it's Jane. And I mean, heart stop, can't breathe, just like, whoa. And so then that's when the sports training comes in. I'm like, just keep walking. Don't look, just go into another room. And then, then I'm in the other room and I'm freaking out. And that's where you have to talk yourself down, chill the fuck out. Interesting side note. The original title of the book was Chill the Fuck Out. My editor was like, yeah, it may not be great. But anyway, so yeah, that was a really powerful experience to me. But it also illuminated my hypocrisy too. It was because I had literally just hooked up with someone else. And yet here I was getting upset because she was hooking up. And I came up with all these reasons why hers was worse. It was 3, it was public, everyone was watching, all these things. And I'm going through all this stuff, and my hypocrisy is just smacking me in the face. And I'm like, I need to start understanding this. So it was just that was actually the beginning of the crash, the slide. That was sort of the first indication that, oh, I'm in way over my head with this relationship.
And you spent a long time sort of keeping your head in the sand after that.
Totally. Yeah. I was, for the first six months to a year of living together, I was just trying to pretend stuff wasn't happening and doing what I can and ignoring. And it was not the right methodology, but it got me to a point where I was ready to start learning and opening up and trying to explore my own psyche and what was generating this. And there's also something I want to be very clear. People have heard the story without reading the book and said, well, it seems like you just like to suffer. And I was like, no, I don't like to suffer. But if the suffering's going to teach me something about myself, there's a cost-benefit analysis there. What I wanted to know, or what I wanted to make sure, was if I was saying no to this relationship, I was saying no because it wasn't the relationship that was right for me. I didn't want to say no because I was afraid to find out. Right. I didn't want to say no from the fear. And so that was really, really important to me. Like, I wanted to get to a point where I could make an educated decision about the relationship, not a fear-based decision.
Yeah. Oh, God. It makes me kind of emotional. I'm so proud of you for the way you handled everything. Most men that I've had experiences with outsource blame when they have big feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And you did the opposite. I mean, for a while, yeah, you were sticking your head in the sand, sort of trying to ignore it and like, look away, it's not happening. And like powering through, which is a very traditionally masculine response to something that's hard. Like, I'm just going to be strong and I'm not going to show that this is hurting me. And then, of course, that's really exhausting and you burn out on that after a while. But eventually you got to this point where you had to take a good hard look at yourself and be like, wait, I am missing something. And you started questioning your ideas of masculinity. And I'm actually going to take a minute and find one of the quotes that I highlighted, because there's so many good me that so many men in contemporary society, apparently myself included, which I was shocked to find out, relate their masculinity to the sexual behavior of their female partners. That's a fascinating insight.
Yeah.
Can you talk on that a little bit? I'd like you to speak on like that attitude in society, because I think it is really central and key to how patriarchy suppresses female sexuality and then also cripples men emotionally.
Mm-hmm. So the thing about Jane is that she was a sex educator. She was a doctorate in psychology. She was a sex educator. And so her non-monogamy was public. She led by example. I refer to her as like a female sexuality empowerment activist. That was just something I came up with. It's not how
she's a lot like me. I love her.
Exactly. Very vocal. And now, mind you, this is in the the late 2000s. This is before 2010 when this story starts. So we weren't in the trendy non-monogamy. It wasn't as accepted as it is now, even though it's still not accepted, but it was even less so back then. And she was one of the few people out there with her megaphone. She creates a good impression when you meet her. And as she met my family and friends and my world, as we were starting to get closer and closer, speaks 5 languages, tall, Eastern European, gorgeous, could talk with anybody on a variety of subjects. Everyone was like so unbelievably impressed. They're like, oh, Adam hit the jackpot. And they didn't know about her other side because that was stuff we did privately, and we weren't really an item yet. But once we moved in together, she announces on Facebook that I'm in now a non-monogamous relationship with Adam. So Facebook doesn't just allow you to do that. It checks with you first. So when I got this note, hey, are you in a non-monogamous with Jane? And I was like, oh my God, this is going public. Like, my world was going to turn upside down. And there's a big conversation. And I obviously clicked, yes, I'm in the relationship with her. But that is the point where I started seeing what the quote is that all of a sudden her value as a woman went to 0 with everyone in my world, that was more traditional. But now all of a sudden, oh, so she's a slut. Oh, poor Adam. Who's he with? Like all of a sudden, she was no longer of value. What also is incredible is my own value as a man. Oh, I'm cuckold. Oh, I'm weak. He can't control his woman. He doesn't know how to be a man. I was blown away by the overnight reversal because of the fact that she's non-monogamous, and I guess I was too, the fact that we were non-monogamous. And the conversations I had with a lot of friends and family was remarkable. And everyone, this was so wrong. Oh, she's a fallen woman or what. And it was remarkable. I was blown away. And the thing about myself is that I started realizing how much of my own masculinity, how I define my own masculinity, was how the rest of the world saw my heterosexuality. Now that the world saw it very differently, I was starting to question my own masculinity. Like, what? Oh, I'm not this tough guy anymore who does all these traditionally tough things. No, it doesn't matter. I can build houses and fix cars and climb mountains and all that. His wife sleeps with other men. He's not a man. And that's the emotion I had of myself. That was the most interesting thing.
I really see this as such a poisonous cultural attitude. And I see it as connected directly to the rise of ownership, capitalism, hoarding of resources. Have you ever read Sex at Dawn? Yeah, everyone who's interested in non-monogamy has to read Sex at Dawn. For those who haven't, the authors, Christopher Ryan and Casilda Jata, sorry, I think I said that wrong. They make an argument that prehistoric humans were likely non-monogamous and really big resource sharers because that would have been the best way to survive. Sharing children, the care of children, right. And sexual partners. And they make a case that based on our anatomical setup, we are actually set up for sexual competition, not sexual exclusivity. And I thought of that so much in the section of the book where you compared non-monogamy to a healthy consumer economy with lots of competition.
Yeah.
Because you say competition's good for the consumer.
But I also say it's good for the corporation because it forces the corporation to evolve.
And innovate.
Mm-hmm. Competition is good for everybody.
And I think everybody can relate to this. Like we see all these couples, monogamous couples who've been together for a long time, growing very complacent, not only in how they take care of themselves, but also in how they take care of each other. And I know a lot of non-monogamous couples who are like in their 40s and 50s and 60s and like hot as fuck and going on the dates and doing the special trips. I know a few monogamous couples who do that, but it's like not the norm. Right. I would love to hear your commentary on this and if this attitude of like competition is good for the consumer is something you still carry.
Yes, I do still carry it. And the jealousy, I talk a lot about jealousy in the book, and that's where I ended up talking about the competition. And there's healthy jealousy and there's unhealthy jealousy. And the unhealthy jealousy is the toxic stuff, the stuff that makes you really angry, that you create negative outcome fantasies of what the future looks like because of what's happening, and you get jealous and you think the worst, then you start making bad decisions based on a perceived future that doesn't exist yet. The healthy jealousy is, yeah, you can be a little jealous if your partner's chatting up or flirting with someone else. But if it's the healthy kind, it's like, oh, all right, she's got other options. Well, then let me show you why you are going to continue to choose me. And to me, that's the competition. Like that's the competition good for the corporation. I'm the corporation. The product I'm supplying is sex and relationship. She's the consumer. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you keep choosing my product. So that's kind of how I started thinking about it. My product. Yeah, I know. Yes, it's a little silly. I know, but
it's not. I think it's actually a great metaphor.
Yeah, it's like I want to be confident enough that, oh, all right, yeah, go ahead. You sleep with that guy, sure, but if you can do better than this, okay, right? And I'm going to keep showing you how I'm going to keep evolving and keep getting better and keep finding ways to keep you excited and interested in this relationship. And without the competition, I think for me, without the competition, it's not as easy to generate.
You talk about this, like when you're in the toxic jealousy, and it seems to me that the difference between toxic and healthy jealousy for you is really just not death spiraling into what you call negative fantasy outcomes.
Yeah, negative outcome fantasies. Yeah.
Not negative outcome fantasies. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's where and you tell this one story, which is so beautiful, about Jane helping a dying friend have like a sexual experience of her dreams before it's too late, and how she didn't call for like a really long time, like all day the next day. And you were spinning out about how she'd like found a new life and she was leaving you and it was over. And then she finally does call. She's like, that was amazing. And I'm so in love with you. And thank you for being okay with us. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that being a big turning point for like, oh my God, these negative outcome fantasies are so very diverged from reality, but
and they're
also
powerful.
very powerful. Yeah.
Unbelievably powerful. The emotions are real.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're based on reality, but the emotions are real.
And it's like having a really vivid nightmare that feels super real even after you've already woke up for a while. Our brains can really react to the stuff we imagine as if it's really happening. And in the context of non-monogamy, so much of it feels so threatening that if you're not equipped to compare reality to what your brain is telling you constantly, you're going to death spiral your way right out of that relationship. Mm-hmm. And you talk about starting to make this a practice of comparing reality to what your brain is telling. Can you speak on that a little bit? I just think it's so fascinating that you were able to get there, because this is something that I've been doing for a really long time, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it.
The negative outcome fantasy is something that I took, another thing I took from my climbing, right? When you're climbing without ropes and you start getting scared, you start fearing, you start getting afraid you're going to fall. And you start seeing your body crushed and broken at the bottom of the cliff, right? That is a reality that hasn't happened yet, right? It's a negative outcome and it's a fantasy. But if I start believing in it, it's going to make it a hell of a lot more likely that it's going to happen, right? So that's what I mean by negative outcome. Like, do not let a future that does not exist affect your decision-making in the present. Otherwise, it will absolutely cause that future you do not want to exist to become a reality.
Pinecones, I've struggled with insomnia and ADHD my whole life, and I've finally found something that helps me manage both. It's not a drug, it's an app. The Better Sleep app has revolutionized my sleep and my ability to focus while awake by giving me access to a huge library of sounds and guided meditations that I can combine in whatever combination works for me that day. I can layer binaural beats with green noise and rainfall, or ocean waves with the sounds of seabirds. I can listen to a wide variety of meditations focused on things like relaxation and gratitude.
This practice invites you to gently drop into the here and now.
You gotta try this out for yourself, and you can do it for free for 30 days by going to bettersleep.com/closeted. There's nothing more important for well-being than good sleep, so go get yours. bettersleep.com/closeted.
So when stuff starts happening, fear happens when you're climbing, and the death spiral happens. And the short circuit is first reframe. Look at this beautiful environment I'm in. Look at this incredible. Look how strong I am. Look how far up I am on this cliff. Look at the world around me. Look at the blue sky. All these peaceful, wonderful emotions. Think of all the great times I've been here before. So that just calms me down. I tell myself to chill the fuck out. Back to chill the fuck out. That's the first thing. The thing about understanding reality is you look at, like with Jane, I looked at all the markers. This is go to all the truth. Go to the things you absolutely know are concrete. Because in the example you're talking about, she didn't call. And I created a whole fantasy of what was going on with her not calling. So totally made up. So the first thing I do is I go back to reality. What's the reality? Last time I spoke to Jane, she was totally in love with me. Last week, we went on a surfing trip together and we had the absolute best time, right? Last week, we went and met another couple and had so much fun. Think of all the books, think of all the movies, think of all the theater, think of all the incredible stuff we do together, and think of how much she loves being with me. Those are real. Those are real things that were true, yesterday. They're not going to be untrue today. So that's how I combat the negative outcome fantasies in that particular situation, is I had to look to the truths. And that's, again, that narrow versus expansive view, right? The narrow view is, I'm in this moment. She hasn't called for 24 hours. She's obviously leaving me. Like, okay, wait a second. You're looking at this narrow point in your life. Let's expand that a week. Let's expand that a month. Let's expand that for the last year. And take all those data points and then come to this one. Now, okay, that one is kind of meaningless. Now, in theory, that's a wonderful thing to do. In practice, it's really hard because when you're in that narrow band, the emotions are real and powerful, incredibly destructive. And I feel lucky that Jane and I didn't get together until I was 40. There is no way I could have done this if I was in my 20s or even my 30s. There's a maturity that just happens just by living. You get older, you start, and I also am a very introspective person. I like doing the work. I like working on myself. I like understanding where emotions come from. So this was a really difficult job. Like I said, it was the hardest thing I ever did, and I question whether I could have done it in my 30s. I definitely could have done it in my 20s.
You talk about the bland to toxic masculinity spectrum.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about that because on one side you put like the really like toxic bro who's like just the worst of masculinity and the guy that everybody points to as absolutely the villain in patriarchal society. And then on the other side is like the sensitive new age hippie guy.
Right.
I want to push back on this because I think that actually that new age hippie guy is like equally problematic in different ways. And I think he's actually somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. Because I think the other side of the spectrum is healthy masculinity, which is somebody like you. Like, I really think that learning that these automatic emotional responses are animal urges that are based on a combination of survival, biological survival, hardwiring, and social programming about what does and doesn't make one a man. And I think developing these skills that you've developed for reframing reality and also developing your own value system. Because yes, the culture says a woman who is really sexually voracious has low value. But clearly you don't think that. I mean, intellectually,
Right.
and never did throughout this because you were falling in love with a woman like that and fighting very hard to stay with her. So can you speak a little bit on the clash between a value system that goes against the grain of culture versus emotional reactions that are very much in line with the grain of culture and how that battle has been for you and where you are now with it?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question. Well, certainly going through the experience of being married to Jane for 10 years showed me a better way to think of my own masculinity and to not buy into the patriarchal emotion-based framework that you're speaking to.
Where a woman has to be less than you, really.
Of course, right. And sorry, I'm kind of caught in between like the thing with the spectrum too. So the spectrum to me isn't necessarily like, oh, this hippie new age guy is awful. He's just as awful as the bro guy.
He can be. I've met him.
But
he says all the feminist things, but then in reality, he treats you like shit the second you have an opinion he disagrees with. Oh.
Well, there you go. But what I'm referring to is just very bland, people who are bland without opinions versus people who are just have all the wrong opinions and are super strong and toxic and bro. And the point I was trying to make with that continuum thing I made up was that you need the sensitivity and you need toughness, but you need them blended in a way that is healthy and safe and promotes growth and promotes expansion for everyone, for women, for men. So in the book, I'm always trying to figure out how much I want of each of those and try to find that balance point in the middle, because the bro's going to protect you. That's a good thing. You could pretty sure if, someone came up to you in the middle of the night, the bro would be that person who's going to protect you. But the sensitive guy, if you're crying and hurt and something, he's going to be the one to hold you and to be there for you. And you can count on him emotionally. And I think relationships need both of those from a man. So I'm not sure I fully understood your question about the society thing, other than I know that now I no longer base my masculinity on the second party validation of what society thinks. I now base my masculinity on how I express to the world. Do I express my world with empathy? Do I express the world with protection, with caring? Can people count on me? I mean, that's what makes a man. That's who I want to be. I want to be the person that people can count on. If I do that, then I'm a very masculine man. And so that's how I have sort of tried to push back away from what you referred to. I forget the language you used was very eloquent.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're answering the
it.
question beautifully. You're saying you developed your own definition of masculinity, your own value system around what it means to be a man, because the one that's forced down our throats in this society is deeply unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed. Certainly by pop culture. And the reality is that there are a lot of men out there like me that have made this jump and have seen the light and are trying to be, trying to be the fierce gentleman, right?
Yeah.
Fierce, but also a gentleman. Like, I love that term, fierce gentleman. God, it's absolutely perfect. And that's what I want to be. I want people to think of me as fierce and a gentleman.
There was a quote in the book that gave me pause, and I had to really sit and wrestle with, where you said something about the fierce gentleman thing, but then you were like, I want my partner to recognize that my strength could be used in unvirtuous ways if I were less of a man. And I was like, wait a second. Is he saying that if I was with him, I should be scared that he might like beat me up if I'm out of line? But he won't, because he's a man. He's a good man. And I was like, wait a second. But then I thought about it more, and like, there's a guy I'm sleeping with right now who's kind of a bruiser and like definitely has some like inner violence in him that he has learned how to control, and I find it deeply sexy. So I can
bingo that, and you nailed it right there. Like that's people. A lot of women I talk to find that sexy. They want the tough guy who can control it and
who can control it
because that's where the real masculinity is. To know this strength. I've got this strength, but I'm only going to use it for good, not against women.
I'm not going to shit on my partner who's really slutty because I knew that she was slutty going in, and that's not fair. Yeah.
And I got to say, the book's doing really well, and I kind of wrote it for men, but a huge number of, like I'd say 40% of the readers are women, and a continual message I get from female readers is they really appreciated how I paint Jane in the book, that there's zero judgment at all at any point. With all this stuff, I never judge her and I never describe her in any way other than with the greatest admiration.
And I love that.
And she was, from the moment I met her, she was 100% clear about who she was and what she wanted. And I really appreciated that.
But I will say that, like, that's how I have been in my marriage, and I have been judged. I have been shamed. I have been pathologized. I'm now at a point where I'm like, I'm never being empathetic to a guy again who has problems with my lifestyle, because I couldn't have been more clear. I mean, the first time we hooked up was in a bed that my sugar daddy was paying for, like in a hotel room that he was paying for. And I'd slept with him in that bed that morning. Like, how do you get more clear than that? But he
how
thought
Jane
I was
showed up. That's how Jane showed up to our relationship. She was like, fuck you guys. Really, she was. And she said, don't fall in love with me. I don't have boyfriends. You guys all suck.
I was like, fall in love with me. I'll be really nice to you. You don't even understand how good I am at keeping my promises. But like, understand that this is who I am. And I just never expected this wonderful guy that I fell in love with, that I still care about and love deeply, could turn into this monster. And honestly, reading your book gave me such perspective on it. Like, I get it now. He was going through hell, but instead of doing what you did, which was sort of like finding his way through and working through it, he just kept his head in the sand and fell back on really, really toxic coping methods that made me the villain.
Yeah, I mean that's what we do, right? That's our default, right? The fight or flight, and it's easier. It's all about self-preservation. And in his case, and in a lot of men's case, and initially in my case too, the self-preservation is about self-preservation of the ego, right? Sometimes it's body, sometimes it's ego, and that's a really hard thing. And again, I'm not defending his actions. I'm just saying that you have to want to do the work. You have to have that pause. And if you just have that pause for a moment now, and I also want to be clear, there are times your partner does things that are really shitty, and
I appreciate the fairness there.
You need to recognize the difference.
Yeah.
But just because you have an your emotional response is not the indicator whether they've done something shitty. The way to know you've done something shitty is to take time, let the emotion settle, and really think about it. Is this a trust violation, or is this a self-preservation mechanism that I'm going through because I don't want to, there's some things I don't want to admit about myself. And that's what again, the reason I went on this journey is because I had a feeling it was going to teach me a tremendous amount about who I was. And you have to want to grow as a person in order to be able to go through these things. And it sounds like your husband wasn't ready for that journey yet.
No. And there were several points where he'd have these epiphanies and be like, you are my path to highest growth. Like, I'm so sorry. I've been so ambivalent. I am committed. And for a few months, things would be fine. But the second anything happened that caused him a big feeling again, it would just capsize the whole thing.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things for men is this idea of not having an explosive reaction. It's ingrained in us that when there's that fight or flight, we're going to fight because if you go through evolution, and it's really hard to that emotional reaction. You got to, and that's, for me, coming through all those years of climbing and then extreme sports competition and such, it just causes you to intercept the emotion when it comes up, and to intercept it, either put it somewhere else or take a moment, and just having that pause makes all the difference in the world. If you can shut it down for a moment.
Even with your extreme sports background, though, it took you a while to start applying that to your struggles emotionally with non-monogamy. So, and I love the analogy, but not everybody's into extreme sports. Right. Do you have advice for men who don't have an extreme sports background and don't have this, this sort of natural proxy for how to cope with fear and anxiety? Like, do you have any advice for them? Like, what could they do?
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. And so the title of the book is Seek the Risk. And it's actually a longer statement, seek the risk, not the reward. Seek the Risk is about a life philosophy. It's about deciding, do you want to live in the safety zone, or do you want to live with a little excitement? And it doesn't mean you have to climb without ropes. It doesn't mean you have to be a bike messenger in the street. It just means you have to be willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's all that means.
To grow.
You have to be,
not because you love to suffer, but because you love to grow.
Exactly. And you want to, and you learn that. And life should be about a little excitement, if that's what you want. So that's the first thing. You have to decide, do I want to live in the safety zone, or do I want to seek a little risk and try and growth? And it's a deliberate talk with yourself. Okay, I'm running towards the burning building. Okay, if I'm gonna be in situations, if I've decided non-monogamy is for me, or if I've decided I want to explore if non-monogamy is for me, then understand there's gonna be a lot of struggle there if you've never done it before, or if you're someone who has deep emotions around things like jealousy, around things like fear. Seeking the risk, not the reward, means there's something at the end of this journey, but I'm gonna understand that the real prize, the real reward, is in the risk, is in the experiences I'm gonna have and how I get through them. It's funny, when I was a young guy and I was like early 20s and I was really getting into climbing, I had so much fear, and I was under the impression there was something wrong with me because I had fear. And I was like, oh, these other climbers that they don't have fear. How to become more like them, right? And that's bullshit. Everyone has fear. It's just how we control it. And also understanding fear and understanding the struggle, whatever it is, be it non-monogamy, be it leaving your house in the morning if you're a real introvert, be it climbing, doesn't matter. Understanding that going through that struggle will teach you, makes it more palatable to be having these responses. And like, okay, yeah, that's part of it. I'm going to have responses I've never had before because perhaps I've never put myself in this situation before. And the key is looking at your responses and really trying to understand where they come from. And maybe you have a therapist for that, or maybe you're just very introspective. I was lucky. I was very introspective. I always had been. So all I can say to guys is that if you are putting yourself in this situation and the emotions come up, and they come up for all of us, just know that that's part of it. Like you don't get one without the other. You don't get this nothing. It's not going to be always perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So decide, if I want non-monogamy, then I'm going to have to accept this. But if you don't want to explore non-monogamy, you don't want to feel it's something that is important to you, you shouldn't be there. So that's the first thing. Decide, do I want to do this? Because if you don't want to do it, what the hell are you putting then if you don't want to do it and you're putting yourself, then you're suffering for the sake of suffering. There's no point. But if you said, you know what, it looks like there might be a fantastically better version of myself on the other side of this. I want to explore. I want to find out. I want to see what I learn. And you may have a fantastically more interesting life. Maybe not, but you're not going to know unless you try. So, how do you tell people? Just know that you're not alone. And that's actually the biggest comment I get from men who've read the book and reach out is, wow, I didn't realize other people had these feelings. I thought there was something wrong with me. It was exactly how when I first got into climbing, I thought there's something wrong with me for having fear. It was like, no, everyone has fear. What are you going to learn about yourself? By processing it and getting through it. And I got to tell you, all the adventures, be them sexual, be them artistically, be them professionally, or be them sports-wise, all the adventures are far better because of the fear and intimidation you feel and that you work through than if it wasn't there.
Well said. Do you still practice non-monogamy in your relationships?
Well, I'm currently single. So I don't tell people, I don't define myself by monogamy, non-monogamy. Every relationship I've ever had has been different, and the framework of it has defined itself. It was obvious. I probably will never do strict monogamy ever again. If I was forced to pick, I'd say I'm probably more monogamish than anything else. I like having a partner. I like living with someone. I like having an emotional partner, but a little spice on the side now and again kind of keeps a little competition. It's good. That's that to me, that's good. But if I met another Jane who gave me the things I needed from the relationship that I didn't get, I could see myself being with someone like that if I was getting what I needed. I'm open to possibilities.
Other than strict monogamy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could never say yes to strict monogamy again. I mean, I could say for a year or two while we work into it, but I just haven't met anyone. In all the women I've met in the last, Jane and I have been apart for 7 years now. All the women I've met since then, I haven't met a monogamous woman in a long time, and maybe that's the circles I run in. But I have not met someone who wasn't at least monogamish in a long time.
There is one excerpt from her blog where she talks about how a woman with desire that eclipses a man's is so threatening to this society. And I really think that's what it comes down to. I think the whole system of patriarchy is all about trying to stamp out female desire and female pleasure, because when we get to be sexually free, it fucks up paternity and ownership of children.
Yeah.
And I think the natural state for the vast majority of women is sexual freedom, but we've been so conditioned to stamp that out of ourselves by patriarchy. And my whole fucking mission is to get everybody to be as slutty as they want to be.
That was her mission too, and still is at some level. I mean, the blog posts throughout the book. She's a brilliant writer, and she actually has a book coming out next year about relationships. And at that point, we may have to divulge who she is publicly. But she's a great writer. She's brilliant. What you're referring to about the blog posts, throughout the narrative, I am constantly showing blog posts that Jane would put on her blog, which were relevant to the story. And it was, they're rather poignant to the stuff that I was going through. And also throughout the book are journal entries from myself. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for gifting me with a perspective that I would have benefited from 6 years ago when I started out in my marriage.
Sounds like your husband would have benefited.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but me as well, because I understood when Jane's lack of empathy about this, because you get to a point where you're like, I am so sick of being controlled. I am so sick of being shamed. I am so sick of my male partner's ego being threatened by the very facts of who I am, even though that's what attracted them to me in the fucking first place. And women like me go through life attracting lots of men, and then those same men, the ones that we end up caring about the most, are the most likely to try to destroy the good things about us. And it's deeply damaging to us to constantly have to fight just to be ourselves. So I empathized with her from the beginning, but the way you wrote about it made me understand what my husband's been through and made me empathize with that a lot more strongly than I have been.
Yeah, it's funny that piece you said about the reason he even fell for you is because of who you were. And that was a narrative that was always going in my head the entire time, was that I fell for this woman because, I mean, that was one of the reasons I was attracted to her, was she was this incredible sexual dynamo. And because of it, I was able to experience a sex life that I could have only dreamed about because of her experience with sex and sexuality and openness. So here I am reaping all the benefits, and then start getting angry at her for the very openness that was causing me to have this amazing life. Well, that's just insanity. Right?
It's happened to me so many times.
I know, but this is the challenge, is keeping those thoughts forefront, right? Because intelligently you can reason like, oh, right, yeah. The reason why she's really good at sex is because she's had a lot of it, right? And she really likes it. And she's always going out there. And oh, that's right. She brought a girl home last week and I had the most amazing time. And oh, she loves it when I hook up. Like, I'm having a sex life my 17-year-old self could only have dreamed about. And now I'm getting upset at her because she is that person. That's just nuts. And just, I had to keep that voice in my head going a lot because, yeah, the ego gets threatened and it comes up and you want to attack. And it's like, wait, hey, hold on.
You're tremendous. A truly fierce gentleman. Truly. Thank you so much for putting your story out into the world. Your perspective is so valuable, I think, to everybody. And I'm so honored that you made the time to come and talk to me today. And I'm really excited to share this interview. Any final parting thoughts, Adam?
None really. I love hearing from listeners and readers. The book is available on audiobook and paperback. And
where would you prefer people purchase your book?
It doesn't really matter to me.
It's available everywhere?
It's available in electronic form, Kindle. I think it's Nook as well. It's definitely paperback on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. It's in audio. It's on Spotify. If you're a Spotify subscriber, it's included with your Spotify subscription. Or you can get it on Audible. It's on Google Play. It's on a variety of it's out there.
It's everywhere. All the links, I assume, are at seektherisk.net.
Seektherisk.net. Yep. All the links are there, a little bio, some reviews people have written, which was really fun. So please. And you can always reach me at adam@seektherisk.net if anyone has any questions.
Everyone read the book and send your wonderful questions and comments to Adam. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here. I appreciate the interview.
We all got secrets. We all got secrets.
All right. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. Gosh, isn't Adam amazing? Actually, he's kind of hot, is he not? I'm going to try to meet up with him. As always, I love to hear from you guys, so please reach out. If you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. If you're listening on any other podcast platform, your reviews help so much. But you can also send me your comments to closetedpodcast@gmail.com, or engage with me on social media. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at samia.mounts, and the show is on Instagram at Closeted with Samia. I am looking for guests for season 2. There's still a few slots available, so send me your stories, pinecones. And also, if you have a mini confession, an anonymous mini confession, record a voice memo on your phone in a quiet place and email it to closetedpodcast@gmail.com, and I will put it on an upcoming show. Finally, I am planning an advice episode in this Between Seasons content. So if you have a question for me, you want my advice on, I give really good advice. So send me your questions anywhere. Instagram DMs, TikTok DMs, an email. Send it to me. I read everything myself. So you will get read by me and you will get an answer from me. All right. Have a wonderful week, Pinecones. This has been Closet Ed. Hear that? That's what's called green noise. I'd never even heard of green noise before I discovered the Better Sleep app. Now I can't imagine my life without it. As a long-suffering insomniac and a person with ADHD, hello racing thoughts, Better Sleep has changed my life. Green noise is proven to soothe the mind, improving both relaxation and focus. So whether I need to fall asleep fast or settle in for some focused work, the Better Sleep app has my back, and I'm not alone. Better Sleep has over 65 million downloads. It's been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, and Today, and is an Apple App Store editor's choice. And green noise is just the beginning. The app has dozens of relaxing sounds you can mix together in different combinations depending on your needs. Here's the best part. You can try it for free for 30 whole days with the link bettersleep.com/closeted. That's right. You can get a whole month of great sleep for free. For real, this app is the only reason I'm functioning right now. I used to be so tired. Go try it. bettersleep.com/closeted.